Hey, 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 hey! Hey, everybody, it is the Welcome Mat, and I am so excited to be back with you again for another episode of Star Wars Imperial Assault. I do apologize, I know it's been a few weeks since I posted anything. There's been a couple reasons for that. Number one, my computer kind of fell apart, uh, thankfully for me, I have a brother-in-law who is a really tech-savvy computer guy. He works at this company where he does that kind of stuff all day, and he's just brilliant. Obviously, you could tell that I am not a computer guru. Anyways, our computer was just not. It wasn't booting up, and so he was able to find a part really cheap and fix it for us, and so I'm really thankful. We have a couple older computers, so we were still able to get stuff done, but all of my Imperial Assault stuff is basically saved on this computer. Like all of my lists, at least like I have Vassal downloaded on one of my old computers, but I don't have any lists from within the past, I don't know. It's been a long time since I used that computer to play Imperial Assault. So, and of course, all of my logged games that I had are on this computer. So, in addition to that, I've just been pretty busy with. I've had like job interviews and stuff like that, so I've been unable to really play any games myself. I haven't played a game in 2 or 3 weeks, or watched any games, so I'm really rusty on Imperial Assault, and I really need to get back into the swing of it because I found out that I should be able to make a regional in January. There's one in Kansas, and I should find out tomorrow whether I can stay with some relatives there, and then head up, hang out with the Kansas crew down there, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to go to the one in Omaha the week after that, because 2 weeks in a row is kind of taxing on the family, and financially, I don't know if I could afford 2 weeks, if that's really a good thing. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out, but one of those 2 weekends I should be able to go to. So, anyways, without further ado, this is a game that I played a few weeks ago. I think it's actually the last game that I did play. I got this new list that I've been really wanting to try out. So I was playing in this game. This is versus Kyle Bossum. I don't know if that's how you say your last name, Kyle. I apologize, but Kyle's up in the Seattle area with Daniel Taylor and some of the really great players up there. And Kyle and I played recently another match where he ran Spectre Cell, and he beat me. I think I may have recorded that one on the channel. I'm not sure. But Kyle's a great player, so we had a fun match here on Uscru. We're playing the Lost and Found mission. Doors are locked, starting with the player without initiative. Each player opens one door. Then for each dash he controls, each player gains 2 victory points. So, as you can see, there are 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 victory points up for grabs every round. And it's a really interesting map, Uscru, to me. I love the door mechanic. I think it really does play into a lot of mind games. This map, I feel like this map got a lot better thanks to doubt and thanks to lists that could kind of punish you for just sitting back and waiting too long. And then of course with Spectre Cell, the way you play this map changes a lot versus them as well. But I like this map a lot better now than I did before Tyrants of Lothal came out. That being said, the droid mission can still be kind of frustrating. So I really like Lost and Found, though. I love how the objectives force you to engage earlier, so it's a lot more exciting to me. I'm kind of on a little rant here. I kind of feel like I mean, I like Mos Eisley, and I'm still assuming that Mos Eisley is going to be rotating soon, and I'm kind of I'm kind of really not sure what to do right now, because if Mos Eisley is still around for my regionals in January, I don't know what list I'm going to run, because I want a list that offers good objective control. You really need that on Mos Eisley, and man, I don't know. I'm not really sure what to do. And I've also never played Spectre on Mos Eisley, so I'm kind of a little worried a bit about that matchup. I haven't really been playing it. I've been playing Lothal when I have been getting in games, and Tarkin, just because I assumed those maps would be around and I needed to practice on them. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, oh cool, a package was delivered. So, anyways, without further ado, today I'm bringing a Scum list with Greedo, Onar, Gideon, Alliance Rangers, Elite Rangers, C-3PO, R2-D2, Jawa, and Hondo. This list has been seen before, except if you replace the Rangers with IG-88. It's a list that I know some folks like Daniel Taylor and I think a few other people running lists like it. There's another variation of that list that replaces Gideon and Temporary Alliance with 2 regular Jawas to give a little bit more objective control, and the 9 activation count is obviously very strong for IG-88. So we're sacrificing that to put in the Alliance Rangers. We do lose Hera in this list, so they take a hit from that. But one of the things I like about this list is, other than just having your 3 hunters, you have 5, so you're not as worried about losing the Rangers for the sake of getting off your hunter command cards. You've got a lot more options with that. You've got 2 more smugglers to use tools for the job, so you're really not worried about that card. But Hondo, Greedo, and Onar add so much more firepower than Han can give you by himself. I mean, if your opponent shoots at Han and gets returned fire, and Han shoots and he gets in a round, then he can do, about the same. But in a typical round, if an opponent's playing it right, Onar, Greedo, and Hondo should get out more damage. So, and I like how you have to shoot at these figures. Like, you can't just ignore them. A lot of people just kind of ignore Han. Not every player takes that strategy, but a lot of people do. And that's just, 10 points that, they're not trying to kill on my list, which can be a bad thing, because you already know who they're going for. In this list, you have a little bit more firepower. So it's got some pros, it's got some cons. I like the Alliance Rangers for Lothal. That's why I wanted to try out this list. Not sure how it will do on Mos Eisley, so we'll give that a go. But there's my list. And Kyle is running Darth Vader with Driven by Hatred, Emperor Palpatine, Thrawn, an Elite Death Trooper, and 3 regular Imperial officers. So 7 activations, along with Rule by Fear, Unshakable, and Zillow Technique. So very strong list. I ended up winning initiative, so I took the bottom deployment zone, and Kyle ditched Celebration with Rule by Fear. My opening hand was Call the Vanguard, Element of Surprise, and Heightened Reflexes, so really strong opening hand for me here. I've already got 2 of my removal cards to help potentially deal with Vader. He's not running Doubt. There is another Imperial list that's pretty much the same as this, but cut out an officer and add Doubt and extra armor. That list is a lot scarier for me to deal with, because Doubt's going to cut away at least 1 focus, and Vader's going to start out with 2 block tokens in a lot of situations, or at least 1, and Thrawn may give him a surge token or something like that for his end of round attacks. So, of course, it's flavored to playstyle. So, anyways, I've rambled long enough. Let's get into the game here. So I start off with initiative. I went first. So I go with R2-D2 and draw a card. I draw tools for the job, so I have a really strong, a pretty strong start here. I mean, I would have loved to have seen planning. I don't remember if I'm running black market prices in this version of the list. I don't think I am. I may be. I kind of sometimes I try a lot of variations with maybe 1 or 2 points different when I try out different lists. So I go with R2. He goes with Thrawn, and we're gonna turn off the sound there for you guys. Let's make sure this is recording correctly. Can you guys hear me? Yes, you can. So he goes with Thrawn. Let's see. I can't remember what card he ditches first here. So he ditches to the limit. I forgot I was running to the limit in this version. I've just found there's so many times where Onar is farther back that a double move would be very helpful to get him to where he needs to be. Onar can be especially scary if you have initiative coming your way. You can move him and then play rush and then do to the limit. You can rush and then play to the limit and get off an attack and set him up to get off another attack at the beginning of the next round. So Onar can do some cool stuff with that. So to the limit is really strong for giving him extra movement. So he plays for C. So he has an amazing start here because I believe he and I believe he may draw into planning here. I'm not quite sure. So he gets rid of my negation. This is a huge play right here because now he doesn't have to worry about me playing take initiative at the start of round 2. And then he does have planning. So he gets off 4C and planning in the same activation, which is really strong. So Kyle's already burned 2 cards and he has 5 in hand. So he's already almost halfway through his deck. So really strong start there. He moves his Thrawn to a little safe spot right there. I ended up moving 3PO and focusing a Ranger. Just getting 3PO in a spot to where he can hand out and evade to some figures that I want to put there. He moves an officer to the terminal, and first he moved Vader up 2 spots. And you can see he gave his Vader a block token with Thrawn's long laid plans ability. So that was the token he gave out that round. I ended up using Gideon to move and focus Greedo. The thought moving him there was to allow Greedo to get to a spot that's in this area over here so that he can get a end of round shot if he decided to move Vader to try to contest these 2 points right here in the middle. If he was, hoping to threaten my door and my figures over here and move Vader in at the start of round 2, because I knew that Kyle was going to have the initiative since he had already... well, actually, I didn't know that. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of negation. I don't have negation, but if I have taken, he doesn't have negation, then I could have still taken initiative. But I didn't want to count on that. You never want to assume that. So he uses an officer to move Vader, and then just chills him next to Thrawn so he can get that reroll in the cower if he needs to, I guess. I go ahead and move my Jawa up, just positioning him in case I need to put some figures here, and he's contesting this objective. So pretty simple, just moving the Jawa. He moves his Death Trooper next to Vader, gives Vader another block, and then lets the Elite Death Trooper chill by a stash to gain objective point. He's checking out Onar because I don't know what happened with Onar. I think I did activate. So I activated Onar and I literally just moved him a space. With my thought there was with Vader having not gone yet and with Kyle likely having the initiative, I didn't want to expose Vader because it'd be very easy for Vader, especially with Parting Blow, to completely take out Onar. Um, doing like an end around attack or a force choke and then moving up, attacking, and then Parting Blow. That's almost a guaranteed dead Onar. So, and I found that a lot of Vader players will go for Onar first because they know it's just that guarantee of not having a dodge or anything like that. So he uses his officer to interestingly move Thrawn here. I had expected him to move Vader once again. So I guess he maybe realized that wasn't a safe spot for Thrawn. That may have been his plan all along. I'm not sure. Because if he had kept Thrawn in that spot and I chose to open his middle door, his Thrawn would have been really exposed. I could have potentially moved Greedo up to a spot by this door, over here in this blocking terrain, and got a shot on Thrawn without Thrawn being able to shoot back. And with his 9 health, and with cards like Element of Surprise and Heightened Reflexes and Tools right now, and I was guaranteed to have my focus because of him not having doubt. That easily would have been a dead Thrawn. Now, actually, even in this situation right here, Thrawn is still exposed. If I had chose to move Greedo up very aggressively, I very easily could have gone for Thrawn here, assuming, of course, that Kyle doesn't block line of sight with another figure because I didn't get initiative for round 2, so he would have had an activation first. So that would have been a very aggressive play. So he goes with the Emperor. Who did I go with before that? Oh yeah, I went with Hondo, and I just moved Hondo next to Gideon. The thought here being Hondo should also stay back and stay away from Vader. Because Hondo is as powerful as a figure as he is. He's very swingy with his defense and his health. He can easily be one-shot by Vader. But if he has the right cards, in some matches he can feel invincible. So Hondo is quite fragile and quite swingy on his defense, almost like Vader in some regards, except Vader's not really command card dependent on his defense. He's just more so dice roll dependent. So he tempts 3PO. It's a very standard move for an Emperor on round 1 because you don't have to worry about the attack power token coming back to do damage to you. And he positions his Emperor over here. So he's moving all his figures to the left. So I kind of do a pretty bold move here. First I move up a Ranger all the way over here to contest this spot. And this was a very risky play because, as you can see, his Vader could still double move and easily move 2 at the end of a round and take a swing at that Ranger and then start a round, wreak some havoc. And that's a focused Ranger. So now the end of round attack is not as likely to one-shot a Ranger, especially because he did not give Vader a Surge token. So I felt confident that my Ranger could survive. So you'll see eventually why I made this play. So my other Ranger I moved down here by the Jawa, and this I actually think was a mistake. This was, yeah. This was a mistake. Because I put my Rangers within easy reach for Vader in one activation to move from one to the other and do his thing. I should have held this ranger back. I had no reason to really put him there because he's not the only figure he's threatening is his officer on the terminal. I'm not really sure why I put that ranger there. That was a really bad positioning error. The other ranger I just kept back. I kept him close. I wanted to protect Hondo and Onar, so I put the ranger in front just to make sure Vader didn't double move and then threaten him as easily. So he ends up moving his Vader over to the terminal. And so now I decided that it was worth it to take the VPs because Greedo right here, he's already getting back his cost. He's already getting 4 victory points for me here in the middle. He hasn't shot yet. In all likelihood, my thought was he's probably not going to want to use Vader to attack Greedo because that's a guarantee that Greedo's going to be able to return fire with his parting shot. If he does kill him, he's risking the potential for a dodge. A lot of things there. Typically, Vader wants to take out the Rangers first, so I figured I was okay to be aggressive with Greedo there. There's a shot that Thrawn could one-shot Greedo. It's possible for him if he has a damage token from himself. Can he give himself? I think he can give himself tokens. And then he rolls max damage. But it's, Greedo. Well, I guess he doesn't have to roll max damage. That would do 9 damage. So if he max rolled and had a damage token, if he max rolls, he would do 8. So he would have to close to max roll, and Greedo would have to low roll, basically. So I'm done rambling here. So I did that with my Greedo. End of round, I draw Urgency and Assassinate. So Assassinate is huge. I've already got the vast majority of my attack cards, and I'm halfway through my deck. So I already felt like I could play pretty aggressively because I had, and I definitely would not have played as aggressively if I didn't have all those cards. But because I had all those cards, I could make a move. So end of round, the player without initiative opens the door first. So Vader opened his door. And then I opened my middle door. I didn't want to expose R2. And I decided that Vader was probably going to play aggressively here. So I wasn't really going to lose a lot by opening my middle door. If I open R2's door, he's exposed. If I open his middle door, now his figures can pop out and shoot Greedo for days. So I thought I would do that, and if his Vader did decide to retreat, I could at the very least try to take down his officer and then set up for the next round. And Greedo could get a shot down the hallway or take his terminal at the end of the round. There's a lot of options there depending on what he had chose to do. So so that was my hand. So he moves up his Vader too, and I had forgotten here that the end of round Vader, it reads specifically at the end of the round you may move up to 2 spaces, which means that Vader can go into difficult terrain. So again, I made a positioning error here because he can do that. He doesn't even have to spend any movement cards to get to my other Ranger when his Vader activates. So again, a very poor mistake here by me. So he attacks Ranger with the end of round shot. Let's see what the dice rolls are here. So I roll really good defense here, and I actually rolled pretty good defense most of this game, if I remember correctly. He re-rolls his red die, and he ends up getting 2 double reds, so an average roll for just 2 damage. So on the start of round, I play Call the Vanguard, and I had to decide here. What I ended up deciding was that I should not try to move, because if I tried to move, he could Parting Blow, and then I would be wasting a Call the Vanguard attack. I would just be drawing out Parting Blow, which is not a good trade, because that's a wasted focused ranger shot. So I decided that despite not having a reroll, the blue still rolls 50-50 to 2 sides, and the green is much higher percentage. So I thought I'll go for the shot on Vader. Maybe I can put a little bit of damage into him. Vader rolls decently, 3 block and an evade, but I roll max just damage. He rolls another block, so he's 5 blocks to 6, and Zilla hasn't been tapped yet. So I ended up heightened reflexes the 3, because I wanted to put some more pressure on Vader, and since that was his max roll, I figured this was a good time to play it. I'm not as worried about killing the officers, so if they do get a dodge, that's unfortunate, but I figured it was more valuable to take out this 3 block from Vader. 3 damage is huge. So I do squeak by 5 damage onto Vader because he taps Zillow, so my Pierce is negated, and he does not ditch a card with a Zillow. I ended up deciding to not move the Ranger after the shot, because I, once again, didn't want to give him a free Parting Blow. I wanted to make him have to kill that Ranger during his activation, because that would slow him down. So he starts off with Vader. I don't think he played any cards yet. He gets a much better roll this time. Almost rolls max damage here. And I roll just a lowly evade. So that Ranger is wiped off the map. Again, I made a positioning error here. Kyle moves his Vader down easily, 4 spaces. And plays the looking for a fight. And he can play this here, which is really smart. I don't know if he had Dark Energy at this point. But this is really smart because he knows I can't negate it. So he might as well play looking for a fight now. And with looking for a fight, he's also giving himself that damage token. So he has a really good shot of one-shotting this Ranger, because I did not have him next to 3PO. And I did not have him close to Onar. So once again, I should have kept this Ranger back. This was a very poor mistake. So out comes the Parting Blow. Moves him over 1 spot. And he lows roll on the red, but rolls pretty good on these other 2 die. And even with the low roll, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 Pierce 3. So he still overkills my Ranger. So he's already wiped off 2 Rangers. So not a great start for me. I felt good about the Call of the Vanguard shot. I feel like that Ranger still earned his keep. He took out almost a third of Vader's health. So if each Ranger takes off a third of Vader's health, then they've each earned close to their value, because Vader's worth 13 points. So now normally in a Rebel Rangers list, you would be in big trouble right now. Your Rangers haven't activated yet, and now you're suddenly really low on firepower. But this list is different, because I've still got Greedo, I've still got Onar, and I've still got Hondo. So I still have a lot of firepower, and I've only played Call of the Vanguard. So I'm sure Kyle was feeling pretty good at this point. He's up 10-8, because I got 8 points from objectives at the end of the round. I forgot to count those points. And he just got 2 from his Death Trooper over here. So So right now, Vader is stunned. So I ended up moving in Greedo, getting him out of harm's way, away from the Emperor, away from Thrawn, from them popping out and taking shots on Greedo, because Thrawn could move out too, take a shot. The Emperor could easily force lightning and tempt. So Greedo would have been easily a dead man. So I go with Greedo first. Vader's one of his favorite targets in the sense of he doesn't have to worry about Vader shooting him back as long as he's not next to him. So I played Element of Surprise. Get rid of one of his dice here. Let's try to take out Vader. Went ahead and played Tools. Greedo was basically guaranteed accuracy here, so I just went ahead and added the red die. So Focus Greedo coming out, guns firing. So pretty good roll for me here. Could have got one more damage off the green die, but other than that, I couldn't complain. Pretty good roll. He rolls a 2-block, so not terrible. He uses face-to-face to pitch to add a block, and he also had spent his block token, so he's now spent both block tokens. So when the math's all said and done, I went ahead and played Assassinate here. My reason for doing that was I wanted to give myself some flexibility if Onar or the Ranger wasn't able to finish off great. Like, I didn't want to put the pressure on Onar. I don't know. Basically, I just wanted to give myself flexibility. Like, if Hondo was the one that was going to try to take the shot to finish him, I didn't have to do the Ranger or Onar first, since they would have need to have played Assassinate probably to get enough damage through. So that's why I went ahead and played Assassinate there, and Greedo does a massive 9 damage here. So big attack here from Greedo. 7, 11, 13 damage minus 4 blocks, which was 9 damage. So the power of Greedo. And I've already played, my Hunter Suite. I did not have primary target this time. I've only got 1 card left. But he's only got 2 health. So I'm feeling pretty good about my chances to take Vader down this round. And I'm feeling really good here because at the start of his activation, Kyle... I don't remember who he activated here. He activates this officer, and he taps Unshakable, and he takes the Strain as a card, which ends up being Dying Lunge, which is huge for me because now I know that his Vader is not going to Dying Lunge my Jawa or any other figure that I go with if I'm within 2 spaces of him when he dies. So you always want to have Dying Lunge in mind when you're attacking melee figures these days. And so this just made things a lot easier for me having to think about my positioning. So he actually double moves his officer here to provide Vader some protection. And because he's no longer stunned, I now have to worry about Parting Blow for my Jawa. So I decided to go with my Jawa to try to take out that pesky officer, so that I could set myself up for other attacks from Hondo and Onar. And remember, I do have urgency, but any way you look at it, I would have had to have put Vader, a figure next to Vader. I don't have Marksman right now, and I don't think I'm running it in this deck. So I would have had to have put Vader, put a figure like adjacent to Vader, which is bad news. You never want to set up Vader for Parting Blow, if for some reason he is able to survive. So, and the Jawa here actually, the officer low rolls, but the Jawa also low rolls, and he re-rolls into just an evade. So we both didn't roll very well. So the Jawa is unfortunately not able to finish him, but that 2 damage is critical because Onar, of course, has Rush. So I could potentially take him out without having to take another shot on him. So he moves another officer, just chills him at a terminal. So he's kind of stalling to activate the Death Trooper, Emperor, and Thrawn later. He moves. He goes with another officer. Well, what did I do before that? Okay, so I go with Gideon here. Gideon will focus Onar and move him up 2. So Onar can now rush the officer without having to spend an urgency and risking him negating it. And he can get a shot off on Vader. So his purple officer goes and moves Thrawn. Since I'm not really threatening over there, he can kind of expose Thrawn so that Thrawn can take some shots in a minute here. So I do exactly what I just said. I rush the officer with Onar and take a damage on him, which puts me at 10 points. And then I take a shot on Vader. A focused Onar hits like a truck, especially at that range. So I have a very high likelihood of getting the 2 damage through. And Vader low rolls, and Onar gets a pretty good roll here. Double evade. He re-rolls into a 3 block, which is his max roll, so not terrible. But I've got enough damage. Actually, let's see. I did. If he had even pitched with Zillow, I still would have gotten 3 through. So Onar for the win here. And that's a dead Vader, which is a huge swing in this game. Because even though Vader has taken out 2 Rangers, he hasn't made back his points. He's only made 8 points. Whereas I still have almost all my figures are at full health that are still alive. So I've got 8 figures to his 5. So and especially on a map like this one with all the objectives, that's really big for my presence on the map. So I went with R2, and he just scomped and drew a card, which was primary target, which would have been great to help kill Vader, but now I can save it for the Emperor. So if I do want to go for the Emperor, I have that option now to help me take him down. So he moves up with an elite Death Trooper. He had given a Surge token to Thrawn so that he could trigger his +3 damage attack. I move up with a Ranger, 4 spaces to try to take out a officer without having to spend a focus token, and I get a decent roll, but the officer rolls a dodge. So first dodge of the game comes out. Thrawn gives himself a block token, and a Surge token to the elite Death Trooper. He moves up 4 spaces and is going to take a shot here. Takes a shot on the Ranger, which I'm okay with because I've got Onar close by. So I've got a decent chance of the figure still being able to survive because I still have my my dice, and I've got Onar. And he gets a decent roll, but he doesn't get a Surge. So let's say that yellow had been a damage Surge. He would have gotten 1, 2, 3, 4 +3, which would have been 7 minus 2, so he would have done 5 damage. So what I ended up doing here was just tapping Onar to get rid of his Surge for Pierce 1. And so now he only is taking 2 damage. So... And of course, I probably would have just evaded anyways if he had gotten extra Surge. And so he still wouldn't have been able to trigger. He would have needed 3 Surges in this case to trigger the +3. Since since I'm next to Onar. So yeah, when Onar and 3PO are close, it definitely changes the math for surges. Did Kyle play a card here? I'm not sure. Okay. I think he had forgotten to do strategize earlier in his activation, and you don't have to. It's technically any time during your activation, but Kyle forgotten, so he ditches my planning, which it stinks. You always want planning, but at this point, I'm okay with that because in this game, I've already drawn most of the cards that I need. That I needed to kill Vader. So definitely fortunate in that his Thrawn this game got rid of to the limit and planning. Thrawn is his ability to strategize is so strong to get rid of cards off the top of your deck because even though it doesn't give you direct hand knowledge, it gives you knowledge of what they don't have, which can sometimes be just as powerful. And but the thing about it is, it does vary very much game to game. I mean, if you can ditch an on the limb and an assassinate, then you're in a much higher percentage to win. But ditching, like to the limit, planning is not nearly as impactful. Still impactful to get rid of cards, but not as impactful. Oh, and he also got rid of negation. So negation was a really good card for him to toss. But yeah. So I go with 3PO. I move up to focus Onar and to block that Ranger. So again, I was completely fine with him moving up with Thrawn to take a shot there because I knew that 3PO could move up and then body block. And I'm totally okay at this point with losing a 2-point 3PO, especially because he ditched Celebration. So I don't have to worry about that 3PO turning into a 6-point figure. And he's already given out 2 focuses, so now he can hand out evades. Now he has a chance to dodge. 3PO has more than made his value for me this game. He does go with the Emperor here. He tempts 3PO. And then I believe he orders Thrawn here to take a shot. Thrawn gets a pretty good roll here. It's dodge or die for 3PO here. So I reroll into the same thing and evade block. So that is a dead 3PO. But in my view, that's very much worth it. Let's say the roll had been the same and I rolled my black die, he would have had 1, 2, 3, 4... Pierce 1, or let's see, he would have had 5 damage, Pierce 1. So he would have had a chance if I had only rolled like a 1 damage, a 1 block. That would have been a dead Ranger. So, also, Vader lists with Unshakable. They're not really going to be running Marksman because your only shooters are really your Death Trooper and Thrawn. So you don't really have to even worry about it when you're facing that list. I've never seen a Vader list with Marksman. Especially a Parting Blow Vader, as a lot of people like to call him when you run him with Unshakable. So he moves up the Emperor into a good spot where he can Force Lightning next round, where he's safe for now. So I ended up playing Urgency here. I haven't gone with Hondo yet, if you remember. So now I can move up Hondo for a pretty good shot here. I don't think he saw it. That's why I kept moving it around. So I kept debating where to put Hondo, and I ended up deciding that it was worth it for him to get the objective points to contest Thrawn for this stash on the left here, and to claim this one on the right. So denying 2 and gaining 2 was worth it rather than like trying to hide over here, because either way the Emperor would be able to get to him next round and Emperor attack, Force Lightning, Tempt, all that stuff. So I figured it was worth it to expose Hondo. With 5 cards in my deck, I also have a good chance of drawing on the Lamb, so I wanted to take that risk that playing him aggressively could pay off. So Hondo is going to move up here and take a shot on Thrawn. Even though I had primary target, the Emperor is not exposed, so I want to go ahead and try to take out Thrawn, and then if Kyle does have take initiative and he's able to take it, because I don't have negation, so he knows that he would have been able to take it freely probably. Then I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But basically now, I'm trying to say he would have had to go with Thrawn first, because his Thrawn would now be exposed with all that damage if I got a decent Hondo roll. So Kyle does though pay the he does pay the 2 victory points because he wants to keep his Thrawn alive, which I'm even more okay with, because it means now I'm gonna get already 4 points out of Hondo, because he's out of activations at this point. So I know that Hondo is guaranteed to get these 2 points right here, and now he's gotten 2 more points. So I'm very pleased with this. Hondo's already made most of his points back, and Hondo gets a bonkers roll here. Max rolls. Doesn't have the +2 though, so it ends up being 7 damage blocking 2, which is still an incredible roll. And he ditches a parting blow, which he no longer needs, in order to add another block. So Thrawn ends up taking 4 damage here. Yeah, 4 damage. So end of round, we both draw cards. We both got 2 again. I was able to draw Celebration and take initiative. So I've got a shot here at taking an initiative at least. But at this point in the game, he's very likely to have negation because he only has 2 cards left in his draw pile. And then again, unfortunately, I'm not able to draw on the Lamb. But with a hurt Thrawn, I figured here the odds were that Thrawn would not be able to take out Hondo by himself. So even if he shoots at Hondo, I can either retreat Hondo to safety or double move him towards his deployment zone to try to get ready for his 2 victory points that he can get if he's in an opponent's deployment zone at the end of a round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I wouldn't have been able to get there this round, but I would have been able to set him up for the next round, assuming the officer wouldn't have been able to like finish him off. But I easily could have just double moved Hondo back into my deployment zone and kept him safe. So both of the doors open now. No end of round stuff. Start of round. Kyle doesn't play anything. I try to take the initiative, and I believe he negates it. Wait a second. Oh, I'm sorry. So he plays take initiative because I was supposed to get the initiative for this round. That's right, because he had it last round with his Vader. So my take initiative was actually meaningless now because I wasn't gonna get it. I wasn't gonna get to use it this game because the game would pretty much be over by the point I would get to use it. So he does play tech, and he knows that I don't have negations. So. And I believe he exhausts one of his officers. And then he goes with his Death Trooper here, actually, so that he can chain into Thrawn. And this gives him, of course, a higher chance to take out a figure. So rather than going for Hondo, who potentially could on the lam an attack, or dodge, or play Let's Make a Deal, his Death Trooper moves up to take a shot at the Ranger. Now, once again, Onar will get another get down for this round. So I've got a good chance for the Ranger to live through this attack. Doesn't get a great roll on the yellow. That yellow die is really swingy. And I get a pretty good roll here. I get a 3 block again. So overall, the defense this game was pretty high. A number of 3 blocks for both of us. But mine came at a couple critical moments for sure. I ended up throwing out the evade, so I think the attack actually does no damage, or does 1 damage. Because he would have done... Oh yeah, so he had +2, that's right. So 4 damage blocking 3 would have been 1. Which I'm okay with here. He's already attacked my Ranger twice, and he's only done 3 damage. So now... and this was unfortunate, so he does go with Thrawn, and he's able to get rid of my On the Lam. So he gets rid of one of my best cards, but it's kind of, at this point, maybe it's too little too late. So Thrawn gets a pretty decent attack here. He's doing 5 damage and Pierce 1. So that's easily a dead Ranger. But I'm totally okay with that, even though that Ranger wasn't really able to do anything this game. He took 1 shot at an officer, and it was dodged. He's absorbed 3 attacks from 10 points worth of figures. So from that point of view, he's definitely earned his money. So Thrawn gives himself a Surge token and a Block token to prepare himself for future rounds. And he... gives the Emperor an attack token, which I thought was interesting. And then he moves his Thrawn to not really a safe spot, but to a spot to where if my Hondo wants to shoot him, I have to expose him. If my Greedo wants to try to get to him, I have to expose him. I think he actually ends up moving his tokens around. I think he meant to give the damage token to the Death Trooper instead, so that's what he's doing. Because his Emperor presumably would be able to order the Death Trooper to attack Hondo. So I believe I go with Hondo here. I do go with Hondo here. I decided at this point that the Death Trooper has already gone, so he's very exposed. I can also attack him with Onar and with Greedo, so I've got a lot of options for, and without Greedo having to expose himself. So Hondo, he does once again pay because he needs figures to survive. So Hondo's already earned back 6 points just by attacking figures and sitting on an objective. And Hondo actually gets a pretty low roll here. So it's just going to be 3 damage. He adds Tough Luck for Zillow. Tough Luck is really strong against the Rangers, but again, I only got off 2 Ranger shots this whole game. The first one I didn't reroll on because I couldn't, and then the second one was a dodge, so the reroll was unnecessary. and he wouldn't have tough lucked it anyways. So Hondo takes a shot, gets through a couple damage, and then runs to safety to a really good spot to where I'm not threatened by anything, except I'm not really worried about an officer shot. And I can get 2 victory points at the end of the round, so Hondo's going to get me 8 VPs. I believe he may have passed there. I had 5 activations still, and he just had 2 because, yeah, he's only got an officer left because he exhausted an officer with take initiative, and then he went with the Death Trooper into Thrawn. So he wisely passes here. So I move up with my Jawa to contest an objective. He's relatively safe over there as well. Pretty safe, actually. And I could take a shot at trying to take out an officer too. And this time, no dodge. And this time, the Jawa gets a good roll. Excuse me. So puts through 3 damage, which is exactly enough to take out the officer. And he's going to contest an objective. So, I just double move R2 so that he's away from the Emperor. And so he can also be shot by an officer or something. Like I just figured I would restrict his options by moving R2 away. And at this point in the game, I don't really need any more command cards. So Greedo moves up. He could take a safe shot on the Death Trooper here. No cards. Greedo gets a max roll for Greedo versus a 2-block, which is, I believe it's not enough here because he can ditch a card. So he ditches Force Rush. He spent a moment there thinking about it. Because I was doing 3, 4, 5, 6 to his 2. So I was doing 4 damage. So he just wants to take... if he only takes that many, he doesn't have to worry about me rushing him with Onar. I at least have to take a shot to take him out, so... but at that point, if his Death Trooper dies, it's game. Because I'm going to get 4 victory points at the end of the round either way. So his Death Trooper has to live at all costs. So that's why he moves up Palpatine to try to at least somewhat body block. I mean, I guess he's just really moving Palpatine so that he can attack Greedo. As Palpatine low rolls here, if he had max roll, he could have done up to 6 damage with that power token, because he gave himself the power token with Tempt and did himself the damage. So Greedo here is going to take some damage. Force Surge comes out, and I can pitch a card. So I pitch Strength of Numbers off the top of my deck so that Greedo does stay alive by 1. And I believe at this point... so I moved up Onar, I think. Did I move up? I just moved Gideon. That's all I did with Gideon. He plays New Orders here. Pretty nice play to reactivate Thrawn. But I run up with Onar to shoot Death Trooper, and it gets a really good roll. And I only needed to get 2 damage through. He rolls a 2-block, and that is all she wrote. So he does run up with Thrawn and take another shot on Greedo, and I think he does kill Greedo here. Yeah, so he does kill Greedo, but at that point it's game because I'm getting 4 victory points at the end of the round and contesting with R2 here. Oh yeah, I moved Gideon up to move R2 2 spaces so that he was contesting, because that had been my plan all along. So, good game by Kyle. Aggressive Vader play. turns out not working out when you just have a lot of figures coming at Vader with all your 100 cards. So 100 cards are still really powerful, obviously, and yeah, Vader is very much just like, man, some games he can just feel oppressive, but some games he just doesn't get enough work done. He's very command card reliant. So I don't think in the current meta Vader really cuts it anymore. He's just too swingy with his reliance on command cards. And if you get a bad Vader roll, or if your opponent gets a good dodge, man, it can just do you in. So, well, everyone, that's another episode from the Welcome Mat. I'll catch you guys soon. Hope to get in some practice games sometime next week. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. And thank you guys so much for listening. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.